You know, we're all taught to think of conflict as a battle, right? It's a contest where one side wins and the other loses. We gear up, we find our leverage, and we fight to get that agreement. But what if I told you that the moment of victory, that handshake on a deal, or the final word in an argument, isn't the end? What if that's actually just the beginning of the real and honestly the most important part of the entire conflict? For centuries, our whole model for conflict has been shaped by strategists like Sun Tzu. I mean, the art of war is basically a masterclass in how to outsmart your opponent. The focus is laser sharp. You do what it takes to win the fight. And this leads to what we can call the battle mentality. It's this idea that every conflict is a zero-sum game. For you to win, I have to lose. This thinking is everywhere, from big corporate negotiations all the way down to arguments over the dinner table. The entire game is just about getting to that one single moment of agreement, that point where the other side gives in. But focusing so much on that one moment creates this massive, massive blind spot. And here's where we see the critical difference. See, winning the fight is all about the agreement. It's a short-time victory. But winning the peace, well, that's a whole different ballgame. The focus totally shifts from the deal to the relationship. The goal isn't just about winning anymore, it's about healing and rebuilding trust. And the timeline? It's not just about the heat of the moment, it's about the entire future you now have to share with that person. So you do it. You push hard. You use every bit of leverage you have, and bam, you get what you wanted. The deal is signed, the argument is won. It feels like it's over. Time to pack up and go home, right? Well, this is the question we almost never stop to ask. Because even though the shouting may have stopped, the damage report is just starting to come in. You know that quiet after a really intense argument? That's not the sound of peace. That's the sound of everyone taking stock of the wounds. There's a term for this, emotional residue. Think about it like the smoke and rubble still hanging over a battlefield long after the armies have left. It's that lingering resentment, the trust that's been shattered, that feeling of being backed into a corner. And here's the thing, even the winner walks away with some bruises. And this fallout is so much more than just hurt feelings. We're talking about damaged credibility, which makes it nearly impossible to work together in the future. We're talking about a new distance in the relationship that feels like a canyon you can't cross. These wounds, if you don't address them, they don't just go away, they fester. And they create this constant risk that the whole conflict is just going to flare up again, probably over something totally small and stupid next time. Recognizing this fallout is a really big deal. In fact, it's why the whole field of conflict resolution has had to evolve. Big frameworks like the UN's Agenda for Peace pointed this out a long time ago. Just stopping the fighting, what we call peacemaking, isn't nearly enough. The real lasting work is in peace building, that long, slow process of actually repairing the relationship and rebuilding what was broken. So how in the world do you clean up all this residue? Well, it turns out that real resolution is something you have to do on purpose. It's an active process. It starts with both sides just accepting what happened. Then it takes a real apology and making amends. And I don't just mean saying I'm sorry. I mean taking actual steps to fix the damage. Only then can you get to forgiveness, reconciliation, and finally, a healed relationship that can actually, truly move forward. But okay, let's be real. Not every conflict is a simple misunderstanding between two people who want to make up. Sometimes it's a straight-up win-lose situation. One person gets the job, the other doesn't. One company wins the bid, the other loses. So in those cases, what does the aftermath look like for the person who came out on the bottom? Well, the losing party really has three main choices. First, they can accept the outcome, but that means really owning the decision to stay on and live with the new reality. Second, they can escalate the conflict, refuse to accept the loss, and just dig in for another round. Or they can make a third choice, one we often forget about. They can just exit the relationship entirely. This is such a powerful idea, and it runs counter to everything we're taught. We're always told that ending something, leaving a job, ending a partnership, is a sign of failure. But what if it's not? What if it's actually the smartest, healthiest move you can make? Choosing to leave can be the ultimate act of honesty. It's looking at the situation and saying, you know what? The cost of staying here in this low-trust, damaged environment is just too high. It completely reframes termination. It's no longer a defeat. It's constructive closure. It's what stops a really bad situation from turning into a total disaster. So what does this all mean for those of us in leadership positions? How do we actually apply this idea of managing the aftermath in our day-to-day lives? It really starts with a conscious mental shift. A truly great leader doesn't just manage the conflict, they manage the aftermath. That means you're intentionally taking steps to rebuild trust after a tough decision has been made. It means you're actively trying to close that relational gap through open communication. And super importantly, it means having the guts to see that sometimes ending a professional relationship isn't a failure, it's actually the best thing for the team. When you boil it all down, managing the aftermath isn't some optional add-on. It's not the cleanup phase you can skip if you're busy. It is a core, non-negotiable part of the conflict process itself. Ignoring it is kind of like a surgeon doing a perfect operation but then refusing to stitch the patient up. Sure, the surgery was a success, but that patient is never going to properly heal. Learning to navigate the aftermath of a conflict can literally transform us. Those scars that are left behind, they don't have to be symbols of weakness or damage. Instead, they can become a record of your growth, proof of your resilience, and the actual foundation of a stronger, more honest relationship going forward. So I want to leave you with this question. The next time you feel a conflict coming on, when you start thinking through your arguments and lining up your facts, just stop and ask yourself, are you planning for the battle, or are you planning for the peace that has to come after? Because I promise you, that one question will change everything.